Well, hello out there in Friendship Village land. This is the voice of Friendship Village coming at you again today, and we're happy to be doing that. Thank you for all those who have been loyal followers of our podcasts, and we trust you're enjoying the interviews and the other things that go on here. And oh, by the way, did you catch that interesting sound effect at the beginning? I'm just trying out some new things here on the old computer, and we'll see how it goes. And okay, we're ready to go here. And first thing we want to mention is our sponsor for this podcast, and our sponsor is collectively all those residents at Friendship Village who volunteer and do good deeds around here. And things like take your fellow residents to appointments, or go to them to help them, assist them in some way. And Mary has some more examples of what our volunteers do for us here at Friendship Village.
Yes, as I go up and down the halls and I visit with people, I see a lot of people, and we're probably all included in some way, of volunteering our time and our service to our good friends and neighbors here. And one I think of is some people can't get out to go get their mail, so they give their key to a friend and they pick up the mail for them. I've seen that done several times.
Okay.
And if they need something from the kitchen or some food item, some volunteer will go down and get it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I see many people helping people around pushing wheelchairs. And that is a real necessity. A good friend volunteering to do that. So we have many volunteers here, and there's many, many different ways you can volunteer.
Okay.
So I have been a recipient of people volunteering for me, which I'm very pleased with.
And you said somebody's going to be taking you to a doctor?
Yes, tomorrow I have someone taking me to the doctor appointment because I don't have a car anymore.
And I saw somebody the other day assisting with some groceries.
Yes.
Somebody had driven up in their car and had a trunk load of groceries, and they came with one of the little basket things and put the groceries in, and so that was a good thing to see too.
Yes, I have had someone take me to the grocery store and get my groceries and help me get back to my apartment with them. So there's...
Well, one thing for sure, I don't think we can ever say that we have too many volunteers.
No.
or we're devoting too many volunteer hours to Friendship Village.
And we do keep track of our volunteer hours. They want us to do that on a piece of paper that comes in with our monthly bill. There's a place for volunteer hours, and they somehow get credit for that. So if you volunteer in any capacity, then write it on that slip of paper and turn it into the office.
Okay. Now, I've heard that called the monthly statement, not the monthly bill.
Oh, really?
I don't know
Well,
what the
whatever it
difference
is.
Whatever
it is.
serves the same purpose.
Yes,
whatever
it
you
does.
call it. All right. Okay. All right, good. Thank you, volunteers. And our special guest is with us today in the studio, and it's someone that we all know, Jean. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us. And so Mary's going to kick off this part of the podcast, starting the interview.
Yes, welcome, Jean Gardner. How long have you been here, Jean?
5.5 years.
5.5?
Almost 6.
Okay, all right. I've gotten to know her in a couple different capacities, and I thought she is a very interesting lady and does many interesting things, which we'll get into a little bit later. But let's learn about her background. We always like to know where they came from and all that stuff. So where were you born, Jean?
I was born in Hamburg, Iowa, which is the most southwestern town in Iowa. From our front porch, we lived in Iowa, but we could see Nebraska and we could see Missouri right off the porch.
That's where it's located. Okay. Wow. I've heard of it, but I didn't know where it was.
I used to live in Atlantic. It's maybe 20 miles away or so.
A little farther, about an hour's drive. And I lived in the Les Hills that you sometimes hear about.
Yes, I've seen those. I've gone by. I had a friend take me to see the Les Hills.
Yeah, we lived up in the hills, but we were open so that we could see out.
How long did you live there?
My parents lived there for 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up there.
Where'd you go to school then?
I went to Cotty College in Nevada, Missouri, which is a girls' junior college. And then I finished up at Tarkio College, which is no more. I mean, it isn't the same college that it was.
Mm-hmm.
In Tarkio, Missouri, graduated from there.
Mm-hmm. In what degree?
My major was biology, and my minors were Bible, French, and English. And I've added 3 more majors because I went back to school again later.
Great. What were those majors?
Secondary education, elementary education, and computer programming.
Wow, you love education.
When you got
don't
all done, you could have done anything with all those degrees.
Well, my first husband was I married a college professor.
Oh.
And because he was a professor, I could take 6 hours a year for free.
Oh.
And we were married for 13 years, and then he suddenly passed away. But I kept taking those 6 hours every year, and that added up.
Yeah, I see. Huh.
Wonderful. So you have education diplomas all over the place.
Well, I guess I have in a way. I've got quite a few.
Yes. So then, when you graduated from college, what did you do?
Well, I went right away. I went into missionary training, and I went to Ethiopia then in October, 1st of October of that year. I had wanted to be a missionary. That had been my aim when I was going to college, was I wanted to be a missionary.
Okay.
And the opportunity came up sooner than I expected because a girls' school in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, needed another teacher.
Okay.
And I jumped at the chance. I was very excited to go do that. But I wasn't a trained teacher. I didn't get my teaching certification for another 10 years.
So, how old were you when you went to Ethiopia?
21.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And did you go with a group?
No, I mean, I went alone, but I became part of a group.
Yes.
The Presbyterian Mission had over 100 people, adults, serving in Ethiopia at that time.
So your husband, the professor, stayed back.
Well, I didn't marry him until I came back from Ethiopia and went
All right.
and had a job as a house mother in a college in Pennsylvania. And he was a professor at that college.
Okay.
And I audited his class because it was biology, and that had been my undergraduate major. I got the top grade in the class,
Oh,
and that
wow.
kind of got his attention.
He liked that student. So did you get married in Pennsylvania then?
Yes, we did. We got married in Pennsylvania. I had been a house mother, like I said, in the dormitory, so then I was with him, and I got a job, just a part-time job working in the humanities department while I was there, just for, something to do.
Yeah.
And then kind of unexpectedly, we had 2 children that came rather quickly. So that was wonderful. I hadn't expected to have a family because I was older when I got married. But,
Yeah. Well, okay.
but we did.
God works in mysterious ways.
Oh, I was thrilled.
Mm-hmm. Boys, girls?
Had a daughter first, and then less than 2 years later had a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they were born in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And what brought you back to working your way west?
Well, I stayed in Pennsylvania altogether for 27 years.
Oh.
My first husband, like I said, died when the children were small, and I remarried after a year to a local doctor. It was not a good situation, and that ended in divorce. So at that time, I came back to Iowa because both of my children at that time, were on their own. My son had graduated from college. My daughter had graduated earlier and was working. And so I came back to Iowa because my parents were still living here. Mm-hmm. And my daughter, right at the same time I came back, she came back to Iowa City, where she did all of her undergraduate work. And she moved back there, so I had a place to go because my parents were in a nursing home, so I really didn't have any place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So then I was very fortunate. I got a job at the university in the anatomy department of the College of Medicine.
Okay.
So
And your daughter, wasn't she a doctor?
Yes, then she decided, in the meantime, she decided that she wished she'd gone to medical school like her younger brother had. And I said, well, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she went back to school and went to medical school, and then she did her residency in Iowa City. So she lived with me. We lived together. I lived upstairs and she lived downstairs, but it worked
Okay.
until she finished.
Yeah.
And then she got her first job after she did her residency was here in Waterloo over at what was Covenant at the time.
Okay.
And she said, "Mom, why don't you move up here?" So I came to Waterloo. Then she got married and moved moved away.
Okay. My goodness.
Then you stayed here.
Yes.
Okay.
And were you working then?
No, I wasn't working, but I had gotten involved in my church here in Waterloo,
Yeah.
and had made friends, and it just seemed. And then one of my friends at the church was Marvin Seiler.
Oh.
We got acquainted because we both helped serve dinners at the church.
Mm-hmm.
He doing the cooking and me helping to do the serving.
Okay.
And his wife had passed away a couple of years before that, and so we ended up getting married.
Wow.
So then that brought us to Friendship. We decided we're both thinking of coming to here to live, to Friendship Village.
Okay.
And it
Mean
just
on your
seemed-
own. You were thinking of it.
I had
he was
signed
thinking
up,
of it?
and he had signed up. We both were on the list of
Oh my.
potential
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
And we decided, since he had a big house on the far side of Waterloo and I lived over by Cedar Falls, that why don't we both just downsize and move in together. So we
Yeah.
got married on September 3rd in the afternoon, and we moved in here that evening.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's cutting it real close.
That's your honeymoon.
That was it, right?
Yeah.
He had actually been able to move in on the 1st of September.
Okay.
But I said, I'm not coming in until we're married.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So you haven't been married too long then, have you?
5.5 years.
Yeah, right.
And that's how long you've been here? 5.5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was his birthday and his anniversary, our anniversary, and also the anniversary of our living here.
So you can
it's-
kind of keep all those dates solidified into one.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And tell us about your interesting hobbies. I know some of them. I don't know them all.
Well, I like to sew, and I've sewn practically all of my life. I think I was 10 when Santa Claus gave me an electric sewing machine for Christmas.
Ooh.
And I didn't get real handy with it for a little while. I mean, I played around with it, but then I started sewing so that I made all my own clothes through high school, through college, and when I was even in Ethiopia, I made my clothes. I just did it. But it used to be a lot cheaper to make it. Now fabric has gotten so expensive
Yes.
that it almost isn't cheaper to make your own clothes because the
Okay.
fabric is so expensive. Then I learned to knit when I was in Ethiopia. When I was 21, one of the other missionaries taught me how to knit, and I just took to that like nobody's business. I
Okay.
knitted and knitted and knitted. I mean, I made sweaters for me. I made sweaters for the cook's daughter or baby daughter, and I just made sweaters for everybody. And in fact, they thought that was sort of funny that I always had a set of knitting needles. If I wasn't teaching a class, I was knitting.
Yeah.
And I've kind of kept that up.
Yes.
Because I've knit so much, I don't have to watch it. And I especially like to knit watching football. I got stuck on the Iowa Hawkeye football team when I was working down at the U.
Okay.
And I found that if you didn't watch football, then you had nothing to discuss on Monday in the office. Because,
Yeah.
but I found if I knitted, I could knit, like, give me 2 good football games and I'd have a sweater made.
Wow.
And you pick out such pretty colors to put together. I've seen many of them, and some of them get to the gift case. Some of them don't get to the gift case because people see them and they want to buy them right now.
Well, and it's almost all donated yarn.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody keeps giving me their leftover yarn.
Okay.
And that's why they're not all one color usually,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't get all one color when they're donating. You
Right.
get a variety
But the
of
variegated
colors.
are so pretty. That's the thing.
And that gets, when I think one of the women, I think it's, well, I won't say, but one of the women gives me a lot of variegated yarn ends, just, pieces
Yeah.
of it. But it's enough to put like a stripe in something, and then you can build the other colors around that.
Right.
But almost all of the yarn is just given to me by people here who said, I made an Afghan, but I had this left over, or,
So you could knit a sweater in your sleep, almost.
practically. Mm-hmm. And that one of them said, but you make the same sweater over and over. And I said, well, that's why. Because
because you don't have to really.
I don't have to think about it. I can just do it.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay, because people really, we've had so many recipients of your sweaters.
Well, 64 of them have sold out of that craft case.
Wow.
64 sweaters. Oh, my.
Plus ones that maybe weren't in the craft case.
No, that's I mean,
That's
I've
a
made
total.
64. I mean, I've made 66. There's still 2 in the craft case.
Okay. Wow. And that's been in the 5 years, 5.5 years?
No, just since the pandemic.
Just since the 64 since the pandemic? Wow. That's in the past 2 years practically.
Yeah, a little over 2 years.
Wow. That's a record. Right. I know down in our craft room here we have a whole great big huge cupboard full of yarn which you have come down and looked over.
Oh, that got me started, really, when I started doing these. Because it was pandemic, so we weren't going out and shopping. But they told me, help yourself to the craft case.
Because we
There you
get so
go.
much donated
The
there
craft
also.
room yarn.
Right.
Yep, that's what I used to get started.
Hey, it's about halfway through, and it's time for a quick break. We want to remind our listeners that this podcast is being sponsored by our very capable and much appreciated volunteers at Friendship Village. So I'm sure if you just look around without much effort, you could probably find a good reason to volunteer some of your time to help a fellow resident. So take a look around, and anyone who is helping you in the way of volunteering to assist your life to make it better, give them a big thank you for us, if you would. And listen, before we go back to the interview, I'd like to share a quick joke. Is that okay with everyone?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a little girl, let's say she's about 8 or 9 or something like that, and she went to her mother and she said, Mom, where did the human race come from? How did it get started? And the mother said, well, a long, long time ago, it began when God created Adam and Eve. And they turned around and had a whole lot of children themselves, and that's how the human race got started. So she thanked her mother, and she went to her father then the next day and asked him the same question, and he said, well, now here's how I understand it. There was a time way long ago when the monkeys started acting like humans, and so they just kind of took over, and we all just descended from those monkeys. And the little girl was perplexed. She went back to her mother and she said, Mom, you said that the human race got started because God created Adam and Eve and that thing, but Daddy, he says it different. He says we came from monkeys. And the mother said, well, in my story, I was talking about my family, and the father was talking about his family. Okay.
Yeah, that makes it interesting.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Well, I have a couple things here. I have a book that was given to me. It's called A Senior Moment. A senior moment is just a wrinkle in time. And it has a lot of word searches, and I love to do word searches. But anyway, they have a lot of things of the past in here.
Okay.
And here's one that I thought was kind of interesting. It says, one special decade gave us many firsts. You think of something that came first. And this was in the 50s. So think back to the 50s, and these things were introduced in the 50s.
Okay.
Cake mixes. Our first credit card.
Ah.
Baseball cards.
Ooh.
Pot pies.
Okay.
Frozen pizza. I tasted my first pizza. It wasn't frozen, it was fresh. Soon after we were married in the 50s.
Uh-huh.
My first pizza, I did not know what it was. I had no idea what a pizza was. But we went out to eat with friends and they ordered pizza. Okay, well, I'll see if I like it. And I did. I liked it. But then the stores started carrying the frozen pizzas, and boy, they took off really good. People just piled up frozen pizzas. TV dinners. And I used to feed my kids TV dinners when my husband had to work late, and I didn't want to cook. So I had a variety. What kind of dinner do you want? TV dinners.
Yeah, okay.
Fast food. And
Okay.
people love to go to the fast food places.
We were into convenience back in that
yes, we
decade.
started conveniencing in the
Yes.
50s, yeah. Cookie dough. Cookie dough that you would just buy at the grocery store and
Oh.
make your cookies.
Okay.
Polio shots in school. And I remember that with my children, taking them to the schools and lining up to get polio shots. So,
Okay.
baby shampoo. Evidently they didn't have baby shampoo before the 50s. So that is some of the things I came across in the 50s.
That came to us in the 50s. That's great.
Yes, which we can go
I
back
think
in
another
time.
thing that started in the 50s was soap operas on TV.
On TV,
Yeah.
they were on the radio long
Oh,
before
way
that.
before that.
When I was in school, my mother listened to the soap operas on the radio.
Oh, my.
We had to be very quiet so she could hear it on the radio.
And
But I liked them.
and credit cards. I tried to get a credit card when I was 25, and women who weren't married could not have a credit card.
Oh.
Really? Huh.
I couldn't get a credit card until I married my first husband, and then I could get a credit card.
I didn't know that. That's something,
I didn't know that either.
yeah.
And I had a good job.
Yeah,
I mean, when I came home, I had a good job.
Yeah.
we did not have credit cards for many years. And we went one place and we owned a grocery store and we had our checks from the grocery store. And my husband always took a check with us in case we needed to write out a check for something. He wanted to pay for our motel room with the check and they wouldn't take it. We had to have a credit card or cash. They wouldn't take our store check. So my son happened to be with us. He gave his credit card. And he said, Dad and Mom, you need to go get credit cards. So I did. I went and applied for credit cards for us. After that, we learned, okay, now we can't live without credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
It's just something that we have all the time.
So, Gene, what's in your future? Do you see?
Well, my grandchildren are growing up. I have a new great grandbaby that I haven't seen yet, and I get to see him in 2 weeks if all goes well.
Okay.
Because we're going to go out to Michigan where they live to
Okay.
visit. This granddaughter, I have a granddaughter graduating from high school, but her oldest brother has married and they have a new baby. So
Okay.
And that'll be a good trip. We're in Michigan.
Lambertville, but it's between Detroit and Toledo. It's sort of in between those two cities.
Okay.
And you drive it? You drive?
We're planning to. We're planning to. We'll stop frequently, and we won't do it all in one day.
No.
We'll take 2 days to get there. And
Sure. Be a pretty trip, though.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope it
Yeah.
all goes well.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it a number of times.
Yes.
But we haven't done it at all now for like almost 3 years. And those children, my son has 8 children, and they have changed so much. They were like 5 and 19 when the pandemic started. Well, now they're growing up. And I want to see them.
No,
Sure.
I would say so. My goodness. That,
Well, I'm reminded of another thing that's in your immediate future, and you're going to move your residency here in this building.
Right. We're going to move from first floor to
The
third
third
floor.
Okay.
When everything is put together.
Okay.
Our names are on both apartments.
I noticed.
Because somebody said, "Are you separated?"
Are you separated? Yeah. Marv's going to stay here, and I move. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
well, we wish you luck in that one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many boxes in what I call my office that it's just a narrow aisle. I keep saving boxes to pack to move.
Oh, empty boxes.
Empty
For-
boxes.
For moving. Okay.
That it's getting rather awkward. Some of them are in the garage, but I keep thinking, well, at some point I'm going to start putting things in those boxes to get it out of here.
Well, so we wish you well on your move and hope it goes easy. And I know they're a little undermanned here in our maintenance department to help with the move. So
Well, we'll hire somebody to
Okay.
move.
we could send out a call for some volunteers. That's our sponsor today. We could probably get some volunteers to help. Yeah.
No, but some of the furniture, I think, will take professionals.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to be careful of that.
Just get some nice sized boxes, and several of us could maybe help out with that. if
Not
you-
me.
Not you? Okay.
No.
All right.
I'll be like my mother used to, hold the door for you. I'll hold the door open.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, gotta have somebody holding the door.
That's a volunteer work, holding the door
It
for
is.
somebody else. Sure. Okay. Well, that'll be fun. And,
What especially do you like about Friendship Village? What are some of the things that you like about it that really makes you happy?
Well, we kind of enjoy each other's company
Yes.
still a lot. So it's kind of nice to have our own place where we can have our own life. But yet I enjoy being out with other people. As you probably know, I love to talk. And I enjoy, even to go to get the mail sometimes takes me 15 minutes because I stop and talk to people. And it's nice to have, and people are friendly.
Sure.
And I like the fact that we have things outside our doors. You can tell what that person is like by what's around their door, so that we're not such strangers.
Right. It shows their personality.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, a person can be about as busy around here as they want to be, or they can be unbusy and alone as much as they want.
Or they can, they can go to a movie, or they can go play games, or they can do exercises.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of card playing around here too. People play cards.
I used to come here to play cards before I ever moved here. Then my group's kind of gone now,
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten back into it, but I haven't really needed it. I'm sorry, Marvin and I still are very happy with just each other.
Right, and
Okay,
you go
that's
out a
good.
lot too. I see you going out.
He has family here,
Oh, good.
and grandchildren here, so we do go.
Combined together, how many grandchildren do you have? His and yours.
I have 9, and he has 3.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a good amount.
Both sides of the family ever been together
For our wedding,
for your wedding? Oh,
for our
okay.
wedding, everybody was here.
You're married here in Waterloo. What church?
Westminster Presbyterian.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then, like I said, came here for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night.
That's interesting.
And what was Marvin's line of work?
Marvin was at Deere, John Deere, as a machinist for 30 years, 35 years. I'm not sure, I forget. But that was his career. Then he took retirement when he could because his first wife then went to college. And so he stayed at home because he still had one child at home. And she went to school and got her master's degree. She went all the way
Okay.
through.
Wow.
So, that was kind of nice, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's great that he did that.
Yes, a lot of people do that. Probably half the people we interview have had some association with John Deere.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Their husband
That's
worked
right.
there, they worked there, somebody worked at John Deere. So
Yeah.
that had really taken a lot of people employed there over the many, many years. And they do offer an early retirement too, I think.
Yeah, well, he'd gone there, I think, at 20. So, he had his years in at a fairly early age.
Right. What are his hobbies then? What does he like to do?
He likes to do word search, like you're doing, and he reads a lot. He's quite a reader. He likes mysteries. And we watched a lot of TV. And before the pandemic, we went to UNI for volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, football. There's a point in the season when they all overlap because I said, don't we think we could just bring our sleeping bags and just stay here?
Yeah.
Because there's about a week or a week and a half in there when you've got 3 things going at the
They're
same
still playing
time.
football and then they're starting basketball. I remember that happened in some of the schools that I helped out with. They'd be just
And
finishing up.
volleyball is around that time.
It's
Right.
just about it, you know. So we're doing that. We do that a lot because and I enjoy that. It's fun because I grew up in a very athletic family. They were very involved in athletics. Not me. That wasn't my thing, but I was there watching.
Yeah.
And then neither of my husbands were previous husbands had any interest at all in sports, so I'd kind of gotten away from it. So it's then back that when I was down at the U, I got caught up with the Hawkeyes, and then with Marvin, now I know you and I, and I kind of enjoy it again.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 2 brothers, an older and a younger brother, and a much younger sister.
Are they all alive yet? Or?
Yes, everybody. One sister-in-law has passed away, but my brother has remarried. One's in Washington State, one's in Colorado, and my sister's in Arkansas. So we don't see each other very often.
No.
But my children, my daughter's just lives near Denver and is a doctor, and my son is in Michigan as a doctor. So I don't see them very often either.
That's wonderful. You have doctors in your family.
Yes, yeah.
You can get all the free advice you want, can't you?
Well, that's what I do. When I have something happen, I take a picture of it and I email it to my ER doctor's son because he deals with everything. My daughter is an OB-GYN.
And that's past that, yeah.
So he can tell me, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, we're kind of running through the end of our time here, and it's been quite a time talking about your life, Gene.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting interview. I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah. So, is there anything else for the good of the order that you can think of you might want our audience to hear?
Well, I could have expounded on Ethiopia a lot. I loved living in Ethiopia.
Okay.
That was
What's the
a
temperature
wonderful.
there? Mostly?
Around 70. Rarely got over 70. It would freeze at night. We were at 9,000 feet where I lived. So you had to learn to breathe the first 6 months. You had to learn how to breathe.
Didn't realize that was so tall, but I suppose
it's way high in the mountains.
Right, in the mountains, yes.
You know, when I think of Ethiopia, one of the first things I think about is Olympic long-distance runners come from Ethiopia. So maybe it's that atmosphere thing.
I think it is because, our runners often practice in Denver because it's at 5,000 feet.
Yeah.
Because it helps build up their lungs.
Capacity.
Well, I can understand. I mean, in Ethiopia, the thing that it did to me was that I could sing a little and it had voice lessons, but boy, after I'd been there for a year, I could out-sing the whole church.
You mean in volume?
Volume.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I bet that would be another whole interview.
Yeah, we could do a whole
life in
one.
Ethiopia. Yeah.
My life in Ethiopia. Yeah, that's good.
And Haile Selassie was the king and very, very nice to Americans and very welcoming to Americans.
Gosh. Okay.
Saw him on several occasions. I mean, I was introduced to him once, but otherwise I just would see him at different things.
I know this is a little prejudiced or maybe not totally informed, but I would think anyone who lives in Ethiopia doesn't have a whole lot to do in the evening, so that's how you pick up knitting.
Partly. We didn't have TV.
Yeah. Okay.
We had radio, but we got mainly English radios. England radio stations.
Oh, okay.
But what we did was we talked or we played games.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first came back home and everybody was stuck on watching TV in the evenings, it was hard for me because nobody was talking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, interesting, yeah. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up this session, and again, we thank you, Jean, for coming and sharing, and very interesting things from your life. So, and you volunteers out there, keep up the good work, and we'll sign off in our usual way by saying, may the good Lord bless and keep you until we meet again. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.